Here's something nobody wants to admit. You don't own your life anymore. Not the car sitting in your driveway, not the software running your business, not even the music playing through your headphones right now. You're renting it all, one monthly payment at a time, and the bill never stops coming. This isn't about being dramatic. This is about the quiet revolution that happened while we were all scrolling through Netflix menus. Somewhere between 2007 and today, we crossed a line we can't uncross. Ownership became obsolete. Access became everything, and companies discovered they could charge you forever for things you used to buy once. The question isn't whether this affects you. It does. The question is whether you've noticed yet. The morning it all became clear. It's 2022. You've just bought a brand new BMW. Gorgeous machine. $60,000. You slide into the driver's seat on a freezing winter morning, reach for the heated seat button, and your car tells you no. Not because it's broken. The heating elements are right there, built into the leather beneath you. They work perfectly, but BMW wants $18 a month to let you use them. The hardware you already paid for sits dormant, locked behind a paywall, taunting you every cold morning. When this story broke, the internet erupted. People called it absurd, predatory, insulting. BMW eventually backed down. Everyone celebrated. Crisis averted. But here's what nobody understood at the time. BMW wasn't the villain. They were the messenger. They were showing us what every company on Earth had already figured out but hadn't fully implemented yet. Selling you something once is leaving money on the table, charging you monthly forever. The prediction nobody took seriously. Back in 2016, the World Economic Forum released a video that felt like science fiction. You will own nothing, it declared, and be happy. People laughed. Conspiracy theorists had a field day. It became a meme. A punchline, a dystopian fantasy too absurd to take seriously. But look around your life right now. Actually look. That video game you bought last year, the company shut down the servers. Your $60 purchase is now a digital paperweight. Jeff Bezos openly predicts nobody will own computers in the future. Everything moves to the cloud. Even Tesla ditched their one-time purchase option for self-driving features. Now it's subscription only. We're already there. We sleepwalked straight into the prediction while making jokes about it. You're paying for things constantly. Your bank account bleeds out every month, but you don't actually possess anything anymore. Just temporary access that can vanish the moment you stop paying, or the moment some company decides to flip a switch. How something this big happened without a fight. Back in the 1660s, some government bureaucrat named Samuel Pepys was getting coffee delivered on subscription in London. Publishers used the model throughout the 1700s and 1800s. Your great-grandmother probably had milk delivered the same way. But those subscriptions made sense. You paid regularly. Something physical showed up at your door. Value came to you. The transaction completed. Then the early 2000s arrived, and everything shifted. Software as a service changed the game completely. Instead of buying programs on disks that you could use forever, everything moved online. You logged into websites. You used software remotely. You paid continuously. For the first time in history, the thing you were paying for never actually came into your possession. Businesses realized they'd stumbled onto something extraordinary. Instead of hoping for occasional big sales, they could predict revenue months, even years ahead. Wall Street went wild for it. Companies with growing subscriber bases and low cancellation rates became investor goldmines. The money was too good, too predictable, too easy. The Trojan horse. Apple's iTunes in 2003 was the first major move. It made paying for digital content feel normal, even natural. You technically owned what you bought. It lived on your device. But the foundation was set. People got comfortable handing over money for things they couldn't hold. Then Netflix dropped streaming in 2007, and the entire game changed overnight. Why buy a DVD when you could watch anything for $10 a month? Within a decade, paying monthly for unlimited access became so normal that nobody even questioned it anymore. Ownership quietly left the building while we binged entire seasons in one sitting. Spotify finished what Netflix started. Why buy albums or even individual songs when millions of tracks were available for the price of 2 coffees? Music ownership died without ceremony. Most people didn't even notice the funeral. After that, the floodgates exploded open. Disney, Amazon, Microsoft, everyone sprinted towards subscription models. Office became Office 365 in 2011. One-time software licenses became relics of a bygone era. The transformation was complete. We traded ownership for access, and we did it voluntarily because the deals seemed too good to refuse. The real cost. Nobody's counting. Americans now spend over $1,000 every single year on subscriptions. Most people have no idea they're doing it. Death by 1,000 cuts. $5 here, $12 there, $15 somewhere else. None of it feels significant individually. Together, it's bleeding people dry, but the money itself isn't even the worst part. An FTC study found that 81% of subscription services use deliberately deceptive auto-renewal tactics. 70% don't clearly explain how to cancel. 67% don't tell you when you need to cancel to avoid getting charged again. This isn't accidental. This isn't poor design. This is the business model. Companies make joining completely frictionless. One click, maybe two. But leaving, that requires navigating deliberately confusing interfaces, waiting on hold, getting transferred between departments, facing aggressive retention scripts designed to wear you down until you just give up and keep paying. The subscription industry has perfected what designers call dark patterns. Interface elements specifically engineered to manipulate behavior, urgency messaging, hidden fees, guilt-laden language, all of it designed to extract money from people who've already decided they don't want the service anymore. When the model eats itself. Once companies realized they could monetize access instead of ownership, things spiraled into absurdity fast. Washboard was a startup that delivered $10 worth of quarters to your door for $15 a month. Their pitch? We're saving you time, instead of walking into literally any bank and getting quarters for free. They shut down within months, but investors still threw money at them. Then came Juicero, a $700 internet-connected juicer that required proprietary juice packets. Investors dumped $120 million into this company. The killer detail? Journalists discovered you could squeeze the packets by hand and get identical results. The $700 machine was completely unnecessary. The company collapsed in 2017. Castle promised subscription-based clothing. Rent outfits instead of buying them. Sounded innovative until 2025, when the founder was charged with running a $300 million fraud scheme. The financials were completely fabricated, but investors couldn't resist recurring revenue, even when it was literally fake. The subscription model had become so intoxicating that people stopped asking basic questions about whether the business made any actual sense. The perfect scam, HP might have perfected the darkest version of this. Their Instant Ink program sells you discounted ink through subscription. Sounds reasonable enough. But cancel that. Subscription, your printer stops working, even with ink still in the cartridges. Even with ink you already paid for sitting right there inside the machine. They've also deployed firmware updates that block third-party cartridges. Cheaper alternatives you bought and physically own. HP remotely disables them. It's the perfect scam. Sell you hardware, then hold it hostage until you pay monthly tribute forever. This pattern is spreading everywhere now. Sewing machines with advanced stitches locked behind paywalls. Tesla garage door openers requiring subscriptions for basic functionality. John Deere has transformed farm equipment into subscription services, preventing farmers from repairing their own tractors with software locks. We're watching ownership die in real time, one firmware update at a time. The Adobe Masterclass, Adobe deserves its own chapter in this story. In 2024, the Department of Justice accused them of systematic deception, enrolling customers in yearly commitments, disguised as monthly subscriptions, then charging hundreds of dollars in cancellation fees people never knew existed. The cancellation process itself is deliberately nightmarish. Customers report spending hours on hold, getting transferred between departments repeatedly, facing aggressive retention tactics specifically designed to frustrate them into submission. Some people give up entirely and just keep paying, rather than endure the psychological warfare required to cancel. Adobe didn't stumble into this system. They engineered it, they perfected it, and they're making billions from it. Why it works so well? The psychology behind all this is brutally effective. $10 a month feels less painful than dropping $120 up front, even though the annual cost is identical. Our brains aren't wired to aggregate small recurring charges into their true total. Each individual payment seems manageable. People sign up with genuine intentions to use something. Life gets busy. They forget it exists. But the charges keep coming, month after month, sometimes for years. The average American now juggles subscriptions across entertainment, productivity, fitness, news, and countless niche services. Each one seems defensible on its own. Together, they create massive monthly overhead that most people never fully calculate until they sit down and force themselves to add it all up. By that point, the money's already gone. The rebellion. Something's shifting though. Piracy is surging again. Not because people can't afford subscriptions, but because they're exhausted by the endless recurring charges. Password sharing has become standard practice. Entire families and friend groups split accounts as quiet acts of resistance. Or the moment a company changes its terms, or goes under, or simply decides to shut something down. This works fine. And for genuinely ongoing services, utilities make sense as subscriptions. Software platforms that provide continuous value and updates earn monthly fees. But when applied to static products or artificial scarcity, subscriptions become pure wealth extraction. Heated seats that already exist in your car, ink cartridges you already bought, software features that required zero additional development. That's not providing value. That's holding your own property hostage. The choice ahead. We're living in an economy deliberately designed around rental instead of ownership. It's fundamentally changing our relationship with everything we use every day. The convenience was real. The model started with genuine benefits, but we've crossed a line somewhere along the way. When basic functionality gets locked behind monthly fees, when things you already paid for stop working unless you keep paying, when canceling anything requires psychological warfare, something has gone deeply wrong. Actually calculating what you're paying annually for temporary access to things, supporting companies that still offer ownership options, pushing back against those that don't. Or maybe we've already gone too far down this path. Maybe ownership is gone for good, and fighting it is just nostalgia for a world that can't exist anymore. Either way, the stakes are clear. The future of ownership hangs in the balance. The choices we make right now, today, will determine whether we end up owning nothing. The World Economic Forum's prediction might come true after all. The only question left is the second part. Will we actually be happy about it?